right, so we've got a whole stack of stories here about this Maaaar. A colossal sea monster, huh? I'm ready to be spooked. But honestly, where do we even begin with something this massive? It sounds like an epic saga. We've got excerpts from the Maaaar, and then a chilling tale called The Maar's Child, and then a few others.
Yeah. What's captivating about this Maaaar myth is how it spans like generations and different perspectives, you know? So we're not just going to encounter this monster, but also how different people at different times have tried to understand it. Think Pacific Islands, ancient rituals, and a creature so huge it makes tsunamis look like ripples in a bathtub.
Okay, ripples in a bathtub. I like that. That's a good one. So let's set the scene. The Maaaar opens with Orana. He's an old fisherman on this idyllic island, Ido Island. He's got that classic, wise elder vibe, totally in tune with the sea. And he can sense something is off. Tremors, violent seas, this creeping dread.
It's almost like the island itself is holding its breath, waiting for something terrible to happen. And Orana, he knows what it is, right? He tells his grandchildren about the Maaaar, this monster with an appetite for entire islands.
Yeah.
It's interesting how the story sets up this tension between humanity and this raw, untamed power of nature.
Yeah, it's like man versus nature, right? That classic struggle. But they don't just sit there and wait for the inevitable, do they? I mean, they gear up to fight this thing.
Yeah.
Flaming arrows, boulders. They even have Orana perform this ancient ritual to summon the sea gods.
Yeah, that ritual detail is key, I think. It shows how deeply intertwined their spiritual beliefs are with the natural world, you know? They're not just fighting a monster, they're appealing to these forces beyond their understanding for protection.
Right.
It's a theme that kind of echoes throughout all these stories.
Yeah, I mean, and those sea gods, they don't mess around. Titanic figures rising up from the ocean. And you've got this full-blown clash of the titans.
Oh, yeah.
The island is wrecked. But hey, the Maaaar is driven back down to the depths. Orana even gets a cool new title, Watcher of the Depths. Not a bad reward for saving the day.
It is a kind of bittersweet victory, though, isn't it? The devastation is immense, and you get this lingering sense that it's only a temporary fix. This Maaaar and the force it represents, it will be back.
Right. You can practically feel that tension building. Decades pass, and while the island has peace, the elders haven't forgotten. This time, it's Yaku's great-grandson, Hoki, who faces the Maar's return. And guess what? Yeah. It's even bigger and more terrifying than before.
Oh, wow.
That's some serious nightmare fuel.
Yeah, this recurring threat is fascinating. It speaks to that cyclical nature of existence, those inevitable periods of chaos that disrupt even the most peaceful of times.
Right.
There's this underlying message about this constant push and pull between order and disorder, not just on the island, but within the universe itself.
And this time around, they are totally outmatched. But Hoki, he rallies those warriors to fight, not just for survival, but for the legacy of their ancestors. It's like this desperate act of defiance against oblivion.
It's more than just survival, isn't it? It's about preserving their history, their identity, in the face of something that could just wipe it all away. It kind of raises a question. What makes a legacy worth fighting for, even against impossible odds?
I mean, just when you think it can't get any crazier, the sea gods return for round 2. It's this battle of apocalyptic proportions, reshaping the island itself. You can almost feel the ground shaking, hear the waves crashing.
Yeah. This is where the story transcends like a simple monster fight and becomes almost mythic in scope, these primal forces clashing. It's a reminder of those unseen forces that shape our world, the things that we can't control but have to learn to live with.
But here's the twist. The Maaaar, the sea gods, they vanish. Poof, gone. The island's wrecked. Silent. Hoki and the survivors are left with this unsettling quiet, a future full of uncertainty.
It's a very deliberate choice by the storyteller, don't you think? To leave us with this unresolved ending. Because the absence of the Maaaar, it isn't necessarily a victory.
Right.
It feels more like a pause, a holding of breath, before something even bigger might happen.
Yeah, it's not exactly a happy ending. Makes you wonder if maybe Maar's disappearance is actually a sign of something even worse to come.
Right.
But before we spiral into existential dread, let's jump to a different part of this saga, the Maar's Child. This one goes back in time, decades before Orana and Yaku, and starts with 2 fishermen, Hiroshi and Kenji, finding a strange egg on the ocean floor.
Classic horror movie setup. Curiosity, tempting fate. Hiroshi, of course, brings the egg aboard, ignoring Kenji's warnings. It's like they say, some doors are best left unopened.
Exactly. They take it to the village elder, Ayumi, who immediately knows what they found, the spawn of the Maaaar. Even when the creature itself isn't around, its legacy can still wreak havoc. It's like this insidious ripple effect.
Yeah. This introduces a fascinating layer to the Maaaar myth. It's not just a single entity. It can reproduce, its influence extending across generations. It makes you think about the different ways that evil or danger can perpetuate itself. How some things are harder to escape than we think.
And of course, things go south pretty quickly. The Maar's child hatches, wreaking havoc. It's like mini Maaaar, but still terrifying.
The scale of the threat changes, but the core themes remain. Facing the unknown. Dealing with forces beyond our control. It's almost like a microcosm of the larger Maaaar story, playing out on a smaller stage, but with equally devastating consequences.
Ayumi, being the wise elder, she knows what has to be done. An ancient ritual, but it needs a sacrifice. And you won't believe this. Hiroshi, the guy who brought the egg aboard, steps up. He's like, this is my mess, I'll fix it. Talk about a guilt trip.
Hiroshi's choice is intriguing. It's about taking responsibility, but it also asks a bigger question. Can individual sacrifice truly atone for collective mistakes, especially when dealing with forces like the Maaaar?
That's a heavy question for sure. So Hiroshi does the ritual, the Maaaar child is gone, but there's more.
This is where things take a truly unsettling turn. The story jumps forward a month, the sea is eerily quiet, and Ayumi senses something's very wrong. It's that quiet before the storm, you know?
And storm it is. Kenji, who survived that egg incident, he runs into a mysterious woman emerging from the sea. And she drops this chilling warning. They've messed with the balance, and the primordial deep is stirring.
Okay, hold on. Primordial deep, that sounds way worse than just a monster. It's like the source of the Maaaar, the ultimate terror at the heart of the ocean. We're talking cosmic horror levels here.
Things start to get seriously creepy. Fish vanish, freaky creatures wash ashore, and then there are whispers on the wind. Speaking of the deep's hunger, it's like the island itself is haunted.
The imagery here is so powerful, you can practically feel the dread seeping into everything. Those whispers, they're not just sounds, they're like the island's fear given a voice. It's a brilliant way to build tension, making the threat feel inescapable.
And then it hits the fan. A monstrous wave rises up, and humanoid figures emerge from the depths. They basically declare, the deep has woken up, and the world is doomed.
It's like a scene straight out of a nightmare. These figures, they're not just mindless monsters, they're messengers of this ancient cosmic force. It's a terrifying escalation of the threat, going from a single monster to something that seems to threaten reality itself.
Ayumi knows they're in way over their heads.
Yeah.
She decides to seek help from a mainland scholar, a guy named Kazuo. He's an expert in the sea gods and their mysteries. Desperate times, right?
Yeah, it's a fascinating shift in the story. Ayumi, who embodies the island's ancient wisdom, she realizes she needs outside knowledge. It underscores just how unprecedented this threat is, how it forces them to look beyond their traditional understanding.
And that's where we'll leave it for now. We've got this terrifying monster, ancient sea gods, and now this primordial deep that seems to be the source of it all. Talk about a deep dive. What do you think is going on here?
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, only each layer is more unsettling than the last. We've got these hints about a cosmic struggle, a disruption of balance. It makes you wonder. What could possibly be powerful enough to upset the order of these ancient forces? Something's definitely lurking beneath the surface, and I can't wait to see what it is. This primordial deep, right? It's like the story's pushing us to confront the ultimate unknown. The Maaaar is this terrifying monster. We can see it, grasp it, but the deep, that's the real source of the unease, that vague, uncharted territory of our deepest fears.
It's like we've been looking at the monster, and now we're starting to glimpse the abyss it crawled out of.
Right.
Chilling stuff. But before we get too lost in the existential dread, let's jump ahead, shall we? Mm-hmm. We've got a story from modern times. The Maaaar, Part 3. Ido Island has gone modern. The legend of the Maaaar is basically, a ghost story now.
Right. People are probably more worried about their internet connection than ancient sea monsters these days.
Yeah, probably.
But this story, it reminds us that you can't outrun the past, especially when it comes to forces as primal as the Maaaar.
Exactly. Enter Dr. Elena Marquez, marine biologist extraordinaire, and her team. They're exploring the depths around Ido Island, all the latest tech, sonar, the whole shebang. And, wouldn't you know it, they pick up an anomaly.
It's like the story's playing with us, Setting up this clash between the scientific and the supernatural, Dr. Marquez and her team, they represent that modern rational worldview, while the Maaaar embodies this island's ancient, almost spiritual understanding of the ocean.
And like always, it's the old ways that hold the key. While the scientists are busy analyzing data, the Maaaar wakes up, ready for a snack. Talk about bad timing.
Oh, yeah. It's a powerful image, isn't it? All our modern technology, our supposed mastery over nature, and we're still completely vulnerable to these primal forces. It's like the story is saying, don't get too cocky, humans.
The May attacks. Chaos everywhere. The island is in a full-blown panic.
Yeah.
But amidst all this, there's one man, Taro, who remembers the old ways, the ancient stories, the forgotten rituals.
Taro, he's like the embodiment of the island's collective memory.
Yeah.
The keeper of that knowledge that's been pushed aside in the rush towards progress, right? He represents that vital connection to the past, the wisdom that we sometimes discard too easily.
He knows modern weapons are useless against the Maaaar. They need to tap into the island's protective magic, the same force that pushed back the creature before. It's a race against time, reawakening a power that's been dormant for generations. Talk about high stakes.
Yeah, there's a sense of urgency here that goes beyond just surviving this immediate attack, right? Yeah. Taro and his companions, they're fighting for their culture, their identity, their entire way of life. It's a reminder that progress can have a cost, and sometimes rediscovering what we've lost is the only way forward.
And against all odds, they succeed. The island's magic flares back to life, forcing the Maaaar back into the depths. But we all know how this goes, right? There's always a catch.
Exactly. It's a temporary victory. The Maaaar may retreat, but it will return. This cycle of destruction and renewal, it's woven into the fabric of their existence. It's a reminder that some forces are bigger than us, more enduring, and all we can do is learn to live with them.
It makes you think about all the challenges we face today, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Climate change, natural disasters, those things that feel bigger than us, beyond our control. Maybe the Maaaar is a metaphor for those anxieties, those fears that lurk beneath the surface of our modern lives.
I see your point, but I think the Maaaar might be more about our relationship with the unknown, you know, the things that defy explanation, the mysteries that linger at the edge of our understanding. It's a reminder that there are still forces at play in the universe that we can't fully comprehend. And maybe that's okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. But there's one more piece to this puzzle we haven't addressed. Remember that mysterious woman Kenji encountered? The one who warned about the primordial deep.
Yes, the harbinger of something truly unsettling. Ayumi is on her way to find the scholar, Kazuo, to learn more about the deep. I'm eager to see what she uncovers and how it connects to the Maaaar itself. It feels like we're about to go even deeper down the rabbit hole.
Well, that'll have to wait for the final part of our deep dive. But something tells me things are about to get really interesting. Or should I say terrifying? Okay, so we're back, and things are about to get seriously deep. Last we left off, Ayumi was on this quest to find Kazuo, that scholar, and maybe he has some answers about this primordial deep. It's like he's gone from monster movie to like cosmic horror film, and I am both fascinated and totally creeped out.
Yeah, this is where this Maaaar myth really, really expands beyond just a simple monster story. You know, we're dealing with forces so ancient, so powerful, that it starts to feel like the very, very fabric of reality is at stake.
It's a lot. So Ayumi and Kenji find Kazuo on the mainland. He's holed up in this library that's basically a treasure trove of ancient texts, maps, you name it. They tell him everything. The Maaar's child, that mysterious woman, those figures emerging from the depths. It's like they brought him a horror story starter pack.
And even Kazuo, this guy who's devoted his life to studying the mysteries of the world, even he is shaken, you know? It's like they've stumbled onto something that goes beyond even his vast knowledge, something that challenges the very foundations of what he thought he understood.
Yeah, he confirms their fears. The Maaaar, the sea gods, the primordial deep, they're all connected. But it's not some, simple good versus evil situation. It's something way more complex and, frankly, way more unsettling.
What's fascinating here is how the story moves away from like a black and white morality. These forces, they're not necessarily malevolent, right? They're primordial, operating on a scale so vast, so ancient, that our human concepts of good and evil they don't apply. They represent those like fundamental forces of existence, creation. destruction, this constant balancing act of the universe.
Okay, so Kazula explains that the Maaaar is like this physical manifestation of the deep's hunger. It's a force that consumes and destroys, to maintain that balance. And the sea gods, they're the guardians of life. The force is pushing back against that destruction. It's like this cosmic tug of war, with the fate of the world hanging in the balance.
It's a really rich cosmology, isn't it? It's not your typical monster mashup. It suggests that even the most terrifying forces have a role to play, a purpose in the grand scheme of things. It's a reminder that we humans are just a small part of a much larger, much more complex story, a story that's been unfolding for eons.
But here's the kicker. The deep's hunger is growing, and that balance is shifting. Kazuo believes something has happened, some kind of disruption that's throwing everything off. It's like, someone bumped the cosmic table and now the whole game is going haywire.
This is where the mystery really deepens, doesn't it? What could possibly be powerful enough to disrupt the balance of these fundamental forces? It suggests something even older, even more powerful than the Maaaar itself, lurking in the shadows, manipulating events for its own inscrutable purposes. It's like the story is hinting at this whole other layer of cosmic horror that we haven't even begun to grasp.
Right. It's like we've been focused on this monster in front of us, but there's this whole other, even more terrifying monster behind it, pulling the strings.
Yeah.
And the worst part is none of our sources give us a clear answer. They leave us with this lingering sense of dread, this feeling that the story of the Maaaar is far from over.
I think that's the brilliance of these stories. They don't tie everything up neatly with a bow. They leave us with more questions than answers, forcing us to confront the mysteries of the unknown. They remind us that there are limits to our understanding, that there are forces at play in the universe that we may never fully comprehend. And that in itself is both terrifying and strangely beautiful.
So where does that leave us, dear listener? What do you take away from all of this? Maybe the Maaaar is more than just a scary story, right? Maybe it's a reflection of our own anxieties about the things we can't control, those forces that shape our lives in ways we don't fully understand. Or maybe it's a reminder of the deep mysteries that still lie hidden in the world, waiting to be discovered for better or worse.
Perhaps it's a call to humility, a reminder that we're not the center of the universe, that there are forces at play that dwarf our concerns and ambitions, but it could also be a call to action, right? A reminder to pay attention to those subtle shifts, the disruptions in the balance, and to try, however imperfectly, to understand those larger forces that are shaping our world.
It's been a wild ride, this deep dive into the legend of the Maaaar. We've gone from ancient rituals to modern science, from colossal monsters to cosmic horror. It's a story that's stayed with me, and I have a feeling it'll stay with you too.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop looking beyond the surface. The most fascinating stories, the most profound truths are often hidden in the depths, waiting for those brave enough to dive in.